they're not challenged by a serious challenger. No, absolutely not. I would expect there will be a serious challenger, and perhaps it's somebody coming out of the community of color, because there still is an issue. There's many issues there, and it depends upon how they act upon getting in office, and to kind of take away some of that, and starting with the police commissioner, and
the school superintendent is huge.
School superintendent is absolutely huge, but I think it's been a sore spot, certainly amongst many leaders in the community of color, about the complexion of the police department and how important that is, especially given the continuing level of violence and the response, and the need to have more officers of color.
Well, let me ask you this. So MAMLEO, the Minority Police Officers Organization, really made an issue, and they were really banging the drum about Davis stepping down, stepping away. Now, when in his press conference, he said that pressure is not what led him to ultimately step away. Do you believe him when he says that?
I definitely believe him. I think that he has made incredible efforts to get to the heart of the problem and try his best to raise the profile of and diversify the police staff. And I think he has those in his chief of staff or his command office, 42% minorities. The thing that I find that's astounding is that he's gotten $2 million to sort of refigure the civil service exam, which is at the heart of promotions in the police department. And so I don't know what the comparison rates are for the white sergeants and the black sergeants and the Latino sergeants, but I know that of the 100 blacks that took the test, and I think they passed, 100 passed, that's despite not having any reform of the civil service exam. So I think Davis will go down as saying that we moved the ball forward. It may not have been as high as MAMLEO, which I thought were totally irresponsible in some of the comments and how they handled that situation with Ed Davis. I mean, if there's some constructive things that can be said and criticisms that could be incorporated, that's one thing. But to yell and scream, I don't know if that's the proper procedure.
But they did have one of their bone of contentions was the fact that, I believe, if I recall this correctly, 9 officers were promoted, and they were all white. They were none of color, and they thought that, look, these officers also have passed this test. If you're going to promote 9, some percentage of that should be reflective of the communities that the police department is serving.
Again, I think that legitimate points like that can be handled in a way that moves the ball forward. And I thought that Ed Davis conducted himself that at least the door was open, and that conversation could have been made and results approved. I think whoever is the next police commissioner, regardless of the mayor, that will be one of those standardized measurements that they're going to have from now on.
And I would just add, I agree with what Howard's saying, but anybody in that position, you figure out there's a time to move on. And he had 7 years of undivided loyalty from the mayor. The mayor had his back, and perhaps he would have gotten it from the new mayor, perhaps not, but he's a young enough man, and
time to look for greener pastures.
No kidding, and there's perhaps some not just greener pastures, lush pastures out there.
And then think about his job. You're the police commissioner, and then every morning in the press you're reading from MAMLEO and a bunch of other constituents, just hammering you.
But he's been mentioned even potentially as the next head of Homeland Security. So he's well regarded. I think his reputation speaks for itself. Where else can you go? I mean, where he was at, he hit the glass ceiling or ceiling some type, and time to move on.
In inner city America is not the kind of stuff that's getting mainstream press attention. And that's where a lot of battles have to be fought and are being fought. But the school superintendents is a neglected, forgotten position in all city governments. And they take a lot of heat, everything from the school buses running on time to the cafeteria meals, all this stuff. And then you have the performance thing. So I think that's an area where communities of color will definitely be paying 100% attention on.
Well, that's Conley's meat and potatoes right there, is education.
Well, it should be.
And no.
It's but I would have to say, and incidentally, I thought Dr. Carol Johnson, while she made some missteps, did an incredible job given the circumstances. That's got to be the toughest job in the city, bar none. That includes being mayor, and because you're dealing
with the kids.
You're dealing with kids, and emotions run high, and there's no getting around that. So any decision you make has ramifications that just exponential. But and if Connolly wins, there'll be a lot of pressure on him, and in many ways, it's almost an impossible task. I mean, everybody has talked about closing the achievement gap, and it's a noble goal. There's no doubt about it. And you know what? The problem is the mayor can't control all the factors that are contributing to it. No matter if he hires God as the superintendent, do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's so enormous. When you're dealing with issues of poverty. You can't control the economy. All kinds of other issues intertwined in there, but that's the biggest. That's having an effect. And certainly race, ethnicity, language, all of those things, special education, those all have an effect as well. But it's an enormous undertaking.
Yeah, and I like, and Arroyo did a good job by putting that on the table. I think the whole poverty issue.
Pathways to poverty, from poverty, out of poverty.
Right. Is a good start on that. And the one thing about these schools is that it's not as simple as, okay, we can solve the whole problem by saying we have more charter schools or we have less charter schools. It's about all of the schools, and there's been a lot of lip service to that over the years. Everybody comes in and they talk the same thing. Mayor Menino, for a fact.
Judge me by my record.
There it is,
remember?
Right? And then you got, I don't know, the dropout rate has made some dents in, but it got high. So you do have a very, very complicated thing, and I think there's going to be when you're asking, are these two guys, Conley or Marty Walsh, more than one term? I can tell you there's thin ice. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny, unlike which Mayor Menino had, because he was sort of comfortable in his position and nobody was really going after him. I think that either way, whether they're elected, they're going to be very vulnerable to public criticism.
Joe, two-part question about the mayor. Mayor Menino, he's got a lot of people that worked in his administration over the past 20 years. Here's the first part of the question is, one, do you think he's going to throw his influence at either one of these guys? Two, what do you think is going to happen with all of those people that have been on the payroll for these 20 years?
Well, there's some delicious irony at play here, which is, I think that the two candidates who made the runoff are Mayor Menino's least favorite candidates in the whole field. So, I won't say he's betwixt and between, but, I don't know that there's an inclination to endorse. That said, you're right. He has an army of people. He's had the best machine in this city for a long time. How they break, how they split, well, very interesting because they were split during the preliminary. The parts of it depending upon where they lived, so on and so forth. Right. But there will be some recalibration. There will be some looking very hard, swallowing very hard to see, which of these candidates they could work for. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about jobs and loyalty, et cetera, et cetera. Now, how the mayor himself handles that, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing at some point, he'll kind of release everybody to, kind of. Not that some of them haven't already been going their own way, but it won't be clear. I don't believe it'll, they'll all swing over to one or the other. I will say that, probably because of Walsh's labor background, he's more likely to pick up at least those that, have some kind of civil service or union protection, and, that's the guess. But
well, the thing about, and I've been reading a lot of history lately, and I just remember back at the turn of the century, Teddy Roosevelt was not the president, and he gave the job to William Howard Taft, and Taft was constantly looking over his shoulder saying, oh God, Roosevelt would just crush him in the papers the next day, say he was weak on this, weak on that. And that's the kind of position that Menino might be in. And it wouldn't surprise me, call me crazy, in 4 years Menino says, you know what? I got to get back into it.
Wow. You're crazy. You're crazy. Right.
Now,
He's crazy.
that would be a story.
Yeah.
Because
he got to come back.
He would be 75 at the
All right,
time.
he's still
although,
good. He's still good. He's still
Yeah.
good. He needs to heal a little bit. And so,
Okay.
I'm just saying, Tommy, there it is, Tommy.
So, so there's your crazy moment. Wait. So there's your crazy moment. Okay. But Howard, come back. Come back, Howard. Come back. There's your crazy moment.
All right.
Does the mayor work against one or both of these guys, in your estimation? Or does he just leave it alone?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard for him. I mean, what's working against? I mean, if he expresses his opinion that why he does not like them, is that working against him or is it just being Tommy? You know, I don't know. Those guys have to worry not so much about Menino, but getting out their vote and making these deals between now and then with all the sort of outstanding candidates and constituencies that we've just talked about with, you know, you got to square it away with Mamleo. You got to get that whole contingent on board. You got to get the school folks, the black teachers who are in the black union, you know. So all those folks have to be brought to the table and say, hey, this is what I'm about, this is what I can do, you know. And everybody, like I say again, gets caught up in this vision, but politics is a very sort of hands-on, tangible, I as a voter want to believe that you are going to take care of me. And one of the good things about Menino was that his love for the neighborhoods. He built them all up. Every neighborhood has got his touch on it in some part. But the bad side to that is that you have these tribes. East Boston never talks to Roxbury. West Roxbury never talks. So you have all these sort of folks trying to get theirs first. And then we can talk about the good of the city. But I think sort of the mindset has to change that we need to know what's
I'm not sure about that. I think that may be relaxing a little bit because if you look at Robbie Consalvo, who's up in Hyde Park, you know, you get Hyde Park, a little bit of Rosendale, but he also had the fellas down in East Boston, you know, aligned.
I'm
with
not saying
him.
it doesn't happen.
Yeah, okay.
It's going in the right direction.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So who's the likely, if one of these folks, the also-rans, did not make it, which one of them is more likely to be offered a position in the new mayor's cabinet? What do you think? Who's the likely?
Well, I think John Barros is a
yeah.
good candidate, and
Perfect candidate.
Take your pick. You know, I think he really showed some cachet, some substance, some style, leadership style, and skills that you know, I think either one of these candidates would love to have, and I expect there to be some kind of, well, I don't know if I call it an offer, but you know, come with me type thing. Charlotte is, in my opinion, she's been there, done that. She's less likely to want to go into the administration.
Right.
You know, she served as Menino's D&D head for years.
Yeah,
and was
neighborhood
with Patrick
development, right,
administration.
right.
Although, who knows, if she was offered the head of the BRA, that would
That's a nice job.
be tough to turn down.
And we have not even talked about the whole development piece.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just two of the candidates. I expect some of these candidates to be around, to be in play. You know, if in fact the Capuano decides to run for governor and his congressional seat becomes open, you know, I see Ross in that race. Obviously, I see Arroyo in that race. Ayanna Presley.
Absolutely.
Who knows? You know, you could see Barros in that race as well. And you know, I'm not sure if you know, that's in Consalvo's district. I think he's in.
Yeah,
Lynch's.
I think he's in Lynch's district. But I can see Consalvo in one of these being offered a spot in the next
too,
administration.
although I don't, you know, I don't know if he
Wants
you know,
it.
He wants it. He takes it. You know, he has.
He's got a
another life,
family.
too.
He's got a mortgage. He has a job.
No, I hear you, but you know, I think there's, you know, with his energy, you know, I think I don't think he'll have any trouble finding it up, and nor do I think the others will either. I mean, you know, Walzak really showed himself extremely bright and
there's no
capable,
question
and
about
talented.
that.
You know, 1 through 9. You know, I thought was a very strong field. I really did. Strongest field I've seen in a long time.
So the scramble is on now. You think that as we're sitting here taping the show, that the two finalists are possibly looking at or talking to some of their compatriots, saying, "Look, you know, okay, you're not in, but I need you. I need you to be with me."
I think they called
I need
last
you-
night
Oh,
before
that was done.
before they